Welcome into Gridiron Icon. And this is an exciting week for me as well as the football world. It is Niner week. We have an NFC championship game, and I am joined by a guy that, hey, let's be honest, man, I hoped I didn't see you again until next year.
Yeah.
I never thought that you and I would be touching base about the NFC championship, but I am joined by the esteemed Kyle Madson, host of Candlestick Chronicles and midday producer at 95.7 The Game, also happens to be the managing editor at Niners Wire. Did we mention he's a lifelong 49er fan? Kyle, my man, kind of good to see you. Not sure how I'm feeling about the fact that we're going head to head again this week, but welcome in, man.
I'm definitely more surprised that I'm here than you are here. I definitely if you had told me the Rams were going to be in the NFC title game, it's like, yeah, of course. Like, they traded for Matt Stafford. They're really good. If you told me the Niners were going to do it in the fashion they've done it, I'm not sure I would have believed you.
It's just bonkers, right? I mean, I got to be honest. I never thought I'd see you. And especially when you consider the fact that we had you down 17-0 the last week of the season, and McVay's, which I'm not going to endorse, I just want to go on the record, is running around in the end zone, dancing around with his players.
Wild.
Didn't dig that as an old school guy, even though I love McVay. I thought you guys were left for dead. And to think that the Niners have went on this run through the NFC, the Cowboys, the Packers, all because the Rams couldn't put them away in the final week of the season is wild, man. So that's a fair point. Point.
Given how well they played against the Rams in Week 18, at least in that second half, I was fairly confident they could go in and beat Dallas. Like, I'm not buying Mike McCarthy as a coach. And sure enough, like, they had 14 penalties and tried a quarterback draw with 14 seconds left and no timeouts. Like, they just did stupid stuff that poorly coached teams do. And then going into Green Bay, I had this weird air of confidence going into Green Bay, but it was like, I think that's only because they'd beaten Rodgers 3 times in the playoffs. Like, Green Bay was clearly the better team. And then they go down and score so easily on their first drive. And it's like, man, this might be a long game. And then they just didn't score. They kicked a field goal, and then the Niners figured out a way to pull it out. And it's just like, their quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, this is 2022 now. And the Niners have a quarterback who in 2 playoff games has 303 passing yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks, and they're in the NFC Championship.
I got to tell I mean,
doesn't make sense.
It's bonkers. I mean, come on. It feels so much like the 2000 Ravens with Trent Dilfer, or what was that Buccaneers team with Brad?
And 2002 with Brad Johnson.
Brad Johnson. Yeah. I mean, you're looking at Garoppolo, and look, he hasn't done horrific things, although I'll tell you, the Packers should have had a couple interceptions they just flat out dropped. I'm sure you were losing some weight during those passes, but
when he floats those ones to the boundary, it's like, dude, what are we doing here? Somebody explained it. He plays like Patrick Mahomes with the arm of Alex Smith, and boy, that really hit home. It was like, man,
that is fantastic. I had not heard that. You know, I turned to somebody during the game and I went, look, God gave Garoppolo that face. He didn't give him a cannon. I mean, the dude's hopelessly good looking, but man, when he tries to throw an out, I smile. I'm like, okay, test Jalen Ramsey again.
But then every once in a while, like we saw in that Week 18 game, the 43-yard pass on the game-tying drive at the end to Deebo Samuel, like it was a rocket, and just out of Ramsey's reach, and it's just like, where is that all the time?
Yeah.
He is a truly baffling player to watch, and somehow in his 2 seasons fully healthy has gone to 2 NFC title games.
Well, and I got to tell you, man, I think that's wild. I mean, think about that, folks. When I'm going to give you a comparison, you're going to laugh me out of the chair, and I think it's a testimony to Kyle Shanahan. He reminds me of Jared Goff. Like,
yeah,
he shows up and he does some incredible things, but I think that Shanahan has been able to get him. He's on the cusp of his 2nd Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, that's not an accident. Coaching matters. And yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be one of these weird anomalies. I think you might have seen on the national scene, Mina Kimes going off about Garoppolo and people going after her, and which is expected. She's female, so here we go. Yeah, but she's right about her points. She's spot on.
She didn't say in that argument she was having with Keyshawn Johnson, like she's just laying down fact after fact after fact, and Keyshawn's rebuttal was nuh-uh. Like, man, what?
Typical Keyshawn.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work. I mean, yeah, Jimmy's just kind of the one thing he does have that I think Jared Goff does not, and I think what separates Jimmy Garoppolo from Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr and all those guys that are kind of in that like third tier of quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo. And you can't quantify this, but he's really unflappable. Like, he throws a pick and he in 2019, his stats after he threw an interception were like elite. Like, he's and that matched the eye test. He's really good after he throws a pick. And, you go down 17-0 at SoFi Stadium in week 18 and he's out there in the mic'd up, and you can hear him going, all right, we're running our offense. Like, this is just one play at a time, one drive at a time. And I think that mentality like bleeds over, and that matters when you're down 17-0 in week 18 in a must-win game. It matters when you're at Lambeau Field and your defense is balling out and you're just trying to figure out a way to generate offense. And I think that is something that, for all of his flaws, physical talent, for all of his physical flaws and where he lacks talent wise, I think that matters a lot, his unflappability.
Yeah,
and I think that's the reason you find him where he is again.
Yeah, I did. You're the first person I've heard say that, but I've actually thought that. I mean, you've nailed it. I've never seen a guy, and that is the difference between him and Goff. You could tell it got to Goff a little bit, and certainly McVay screaming him down got to him. But Garoppolo just seems to shrug. He almost has that blank look on his face. He's like, all right, next play.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for that playing quarterback in the NFL, especially if you're limited in a skill set. He's just like, and hey, I don't think there's any denying his teammates love him.
Yeah.
I mean, teammates love him. I'd hate to see him on a team that he's got to throw the ball, 40 times a game. I think that running game really helps him. But God, you bring up some really good points. He's just not flappable. And that's meant for the big stage. I mean, here we go. He's on the big stage again.
Yeah. When you need him to make, that's a big thing. Is I produce a radio show, and the host that I produce for is very much like Jimmy deserves a lot of credit. And it's like, I mean, I guess, but the 49ers have him in a spot, like you mentioned, their run game, their defense is playing really well. They're playing a style of football right now where he needs to make 3 to 5 throws a game. And can he make those 3 to 5 throws? And that game-winning drive against the Packers, first down, comes out, throws a strike over the middle to Deebo Samuel, gets some yak, and then I think on the following, and they ran it, and then I think on the second down after they ran it, another throw to George Kittle between the hashes. Goes for 11 or 14 or however many yards. There's 2 big throws that they needed, and he completed them. And, did he almost throw 2 pick sixes to the boundary? Yes. Did he throw a really bad red zone interception at the end of the half? Yes. But the Niners kept it close, and when they needed him to make a throw or 2, he made it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the story of Jimmy G.
No, it's wild, and it's so Dilfer. It's so Brad Johnson. It's so, wow. I mean, this guy might, he's on the doorstep of the Super Bowl again, and his numbers aren't there. I put together some numbers after game 8 of this season, because you're hearing all these praises for him, and then the national media is going after him. Garoppolo ranked 7th in QBR at 56.4, 11th in passing yards over 2,000, 2nd in yards per attempt at 9, and 2nd in completion percentage. And the Niners went 6-2 in his final 8 starts and 7-2. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to argue, look, quarterbacks are meant for the big stage. That's why we went out and got Matthew Stafford. And Jimmy G's delivered up to this point. Great. He's playing with a tough defense. He's playing with a great running game. Don't fault him for it. Can't fault it. And he is really good in the middle of the field on those post routes or those seam routes.
Mm-hmm.
He shines there. That's a really good point. It's where he starts to go outside or go deep that you kind of
Right.
Kind of
And
hope
that's
if you're on my end, you're hoping for something, but
and that's why the Niners are moving on ultimately, because you can talk about, I mean, you just laid out the numbers. Garoppolo within this offense can operate the 49ers offense and move them down the field, and they can average, 5.5 yards a play, and he can average 8 or 9 yards per attempt. And that's all great. But it's like, it's hard to watch. And then you see what Trey Lance did in the second half against the Texans. And it's like, oh, like that's what a quarterback with real arm talent and real mobility can do in this offense. And so it's hard to accept what Garoppolo brings, even if it's good enough to get them to the NFC title game. It's really hard to accept that when the ceiling should be twice as high.
yeah.
And that's where like the fan base is split down the middle. There's a lot of people who are like, Jimmy's the man. All he does is win, and that's what it is. But then there's this other half that looks at it like that goes, yeah, the offense is fine, but imagine how much better it could be. You watched the other night on, I mean, you could even go to the Bucks Rams game if you want, but I think the shining example is Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes going at it in Kansas City. And you're watching those two guys play, and it's like they're playing a different sport than the one Jimmy Garoppolo plays.
That's great, man.
And so
a different sport all the way around.
Seriously, like, it's like, all right, I know the Niners have a really good defense, but this weekend, if the Rams are racking up points the way they did in the first half against the Buccaneers, is Jimmy Garoppolo going to go throw for throw with Matthew Stafford? Probably not. Like, you don't love their chances. So I don't think it's a coincidence that in the playoffs, Mina Kimes brought this up, and it's a great point. 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in his playoff career for Jimmy Garoppolo. His best game as a passer from efficiency and everything else was the game against Green Bay in the NFC Championship 2 years ago when he threw 8 passes.
Yeah.
It's 6 for 8 for 77 or 79 yards. His worst game was the Super Bowl. At least his worst game prior to this year was the Super Bowl when he had to throw it 31 times. It's like when he puts the more he puts the ball in the air, the worse he is.
Yeah, he's a game manager. He's got some nice skills, but he's a game manager. And yeah, I mean, again, I personally, when I think of Jimmy G, I immediately just go right to Kyle Shanahan and go, God, this guy deserves a lot of credit. I mean, he's just been able to get the most out of him while he sits and develops Lance, while he builds an offense around his skill set. And then, he's playing with a busted up thumb. So look, man, he's a tough guy. I tip my hat to him. So before we jump into this game coming Sunday, on the Jimmy G subject, do you think that they will in fact move off of him? And do you think that the way he's played, getting them this close to a Super Bowl, that they can get a first round draft pick? Or are they going to stick into the 2 to 3 range? Or do they even move? Do they even move off from it?
He's gone.
He's gone, even if they win.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
It's just because I know this
it's a cutthroat business, man.
It's really, it's really funny talking to people outside the market about this, because I did a radio hit in Boston and the guy had the same reaction as you. And it makes sense until, like, when you put the pieces together, they traded 3 first-round picks to draft Trey Lance. They didn't do that because they wanted a better backup. They did that because they want a better starter. And Jimmy Garoppolo has not done anything this year through the regular season and certainly in the postseason that says, hey, this guy is better than we thought. This guy can get the offense to that ceiling that Trey Lance can get them. He is just who he is. You can win with him. They need their defense to be playing lights out, which it has. But if their defense had faltered at all in any of the last 3 weeks, they're screwed. Like, they lose any of their last 3 games if their defense isn't getting, I think they had 5 sacks in each game. And their secondary is playing really well. If their run game and Deebo Samuel aren't playing lights out in any of the last 3 games, the Niners are out. And so I think then you turn to the quarterback, the most important position on the field, and you say you can't consistently win. Like, it's unrealistic to expect the defense to be as good as it is forever, and for the run game to be as good as it's been forever. That's part of the reason the Niners started 3-5, was their defense wasn't playing very well and their offense just couldn't keep up. So Garoppolo has not done anything through, let's see, he started 15 regular season 3, so 17 starts, that says, oh, he's better than the 49ers thought. He is who he is. That's
Yeah.
fine, but it limits the team and it makes them play with one hand tied behind their back. And that's not something I think Kyle Shanahan's interested in doing for much longer.
Yeah. So I couldn't agree with you more on all of those points. I'm a little surprised, although I shouldn't be in today's NFL. If this is Bill Belichick or somebody else and they know they've squeezed every ounce of juice out of Jimmy G's talent and they win a Super Bowl even with him, he's not afraid to move on from him because he doesn't want to be mediocre. So in today's NFL, I think you're spot on. Do you think they can get a first rounder for him?
I mean, never say never with teams in the NFL being dumb.
Yeah, some dumb ones.
But I think any team that's going to acquire Jimmy Garoppolo, John McClain from the Houston Chronicles said there's no interest in Houston. Like, I know people tie him there because of Nick Caserio. He was in New England when they drafted Garoppolo, but Jimmy's not the type of quarterback that a rebuilding team is going to bring in. Like, he's not going to elevate your talent. He could go to Pittsburgh and I think be really good for Pittsburgh, or he could go.
I was thinking Cleveland.
Cleveland.
I know they got Baker, but still, I mean, with that running game and the defense, it's like,
Yeah, and Kevin Stefanski he's a Gary Kubiak guy, just like Kyle Shanahan's, a very similar offense. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But Cleveland, I think, with Andrew Berry, their GM, is a smart team. I don't think they're shelling out a first-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. They value those picks too much. Pittsburgh's certainly not doing it. I used to say the Saints, but I don't know what their situation's like now with Sean Payton stepping down.
Exploded 24 hours ago.
I know, wild.
Man.
So, I mean, there will be teams that need quarterbacks, especially if Aaron Rodgers hangs them up, especially if Tom Brady hangs them up. Like, all of a sudden, there's these teams that, like, okay, good defense, good run game, and Jimmy Garoppolo can kind of, manage their way through it. But I think like a third-round pick, that becomes a second if he wins X amount of games or starts X amount of games or whatever it is. But just his contract and the injury problems, I know he started 15 games this year, but he had the injured calf. He has an injured shoulder now. He's got an injured thumb. It's like, it never ends with this guy. So I think if the Niners can get a third-round pick for him, I think they'd take it today.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I'm very curious because you're hearing some of the talking heads talking about a first rounder now if he gets into the Super Bowl. I just don't know. I can't think of any team that would be that stupid at this point, particularly since every bad team that has that is quarterback starved. And he's not going to.
And nobody's watching Jimmy Garoppolo. If the 49ers win on Sunday and they go to the Super Bowl, I promise nobody's going to go, wow, look at that. That's a hell of a playoff run by Jimmy. Wow, he really got it. Like, they didn't score.
There might be some weird Niner fans that do that. I don't know.
They haven't scored. So they took their opening drive against the Cowboys, 75 yards for a touchdown. That's the last time they scored. Their next one was a one-play 26-yard drive after an interception, and Deebo Samuel ran it in for a touchdown. And then they didn't score against the Packers, an offensive touchdown. So you're looking at 7 quarters since they put together a scoring drive. That's not good.
Valid point, man. This is coming from the Niner guy. It's one of these runs that, God, it just reminds me of those classic teams of the past where you're just going, how should the Niners be here? I mean, it's pretty obvious that the Rams could have knocked them out and the Packers wish they did. And I'm sure the Cowboys wish they did, but Shanahan gets them pumped up for games. They're blue collar. They might be playing over their skis right now. We're about to find out real soon because they're going up against a team that's modeled itself after the modern day NBA superstar dynamic where you're gathering, Von Miller and OBJ and Matthew Stafford. And I mean, we're about to find out. So on that note, speaking just briefly about Matthew Stafford, as a guy who watches quarterbacks, clearly the superior talent in this game. Is he going to have to, from your estimation, watching 2 Rams games this year and knowing his Lions history, is he going to have to throw 40, 50 times in this game to beat the 49ers? Because our running game hasn't done so hot in the past, but we haven't played with Cam Akers against the Niners this year.
Yeah, the Niners run defense has just been awesome lately. It's been really, really good. So that was honestly one of the big things I thought against Green Bay was going to be a problem was Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. and then AJ Dillon got hurt. The Packers only ran it 20 times for 67 yards, and they tried.
Yeah.
Like, they really tried to get it going.
Yeah.
So
another Shanahan disciple too in LaFleur, like goes away from the running game. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, well, they kind of had to. Like, they kept getting in second and third and long trying to get the run game going because the Niners' run defense has been so effective. So I think if Stafford's throwing it 50 times, that probably means the Niners are ahead by a lot early. Because I think McVay is going to try and get the ground game going. I wouldn't be surprised, if it's Cam Akers, if it's, an end around to Cooper Kupp, get Van Jefferson involved, just trying to get something going on the ground that doesn't involve Matthew Stafford having to make a ton of plays. But I've always been a big Matthew Stafford guy. Even when he was in Detroit, I never thought he was the problem there. And when the Rams traded for him, I said, like, it wouldn't surprise me if they go like 15-2 and win the Super Bowl. I think Matthew Stafford is good as hell. And is he susceptible to a mistake or two? Yeah, for sure. But when the ceiling is as high as it is with Stafford, you'll take the interception or two, or the fumble, or whatever mistake he's going to make, because your next drive could end on a bomb to Cooper Kupp. Yeah. So I think he makes them excellent. I think he's a really good player, and he's again, like we talked about the ceiling with Jimmy Garoppolo. The ceiling for them with Jared Goff was so far down here, and now with Stafford, yeah, every once in a while they're going to hit that floor, but the peak is like is this might be the best team in the league, and that's what they look like for 20, 30 math is hard, 35 minutes against the Bucs. And if they go out and win on Sunday, it wouldn't be like a huge shock. Like they are really, really good. Well, and I think it's largely because of Stafford.
Yeah, and they should win on Sunday. I mean, I'm not saying that because I'm a homer. It's look at our roster compared to yours. Look at the injury situation compared to yours. It's nuts, It's kind of interesting. I don't know if you listen to the Flying Coach podcast, Peter Schrager. He only does like 4 episodes, and he does it in the off season. Yeah. And he co-hosts with McVay. He had Kyle Shanahan on because McVay and Shanahan are buddies. And Shanahan just went on this rant during the time that McVay and Stafford were in Mexico and connecting, and we were training for him, because Shanahan went after him too. So that tells me that when Shanahan, who loves that running game, that West Coast, sees crap, they're about to get Matthew Stafford, I better get him. They're onto something there. But I'll tell you what, this is what Matthew Stafford's waited for his entire career. This is it. So here you go, Matthew. We're all behind you. So switching gears on you, because we're going to hear a lot of this in the national media, but from on the ground in San Francisco and the Bay Area, we're going to hear all about McVay and Shanahan. Shanahan owns him 6 straight games, which just pains me to say. But I want to present to you that I think this game is won by 2 other coaches, and that is Raheem Morris and a guy that I think has just been lights out this year, DeMeco Ryan, who was an unreal player and has just done unbelievable things in San Francisco. Do you agree with me? Do you think that these 2 coordinators, both of which people should be chasing for head coaching jobs? Yeah, I see this game coming down to who calls a better defense on Sunday, and DeMeco's been unreal.
Yeah, I think that's right. If McVay and Shanahan are basically a wash, it's like, how many mistakes is the defense going to make? Yeah. And that's where Nick Wagner from ESPN, he covers the Niners for ESPN, had the stat that there's been 22 instances of a team playing a team a third time in a year, and the team that won the first 2, that are 2-0 when facing a team a third time in a year. That's happened 22 times. And the team that won the first 2 is 14-8. So like that whole third time matchup thing doesn't fly as much, but I think it does here, because so much of what I think the Niners and Shanahan are able to do to McVay are knowing McVay's tendencies, knowing their defense's tendencies, and using those principles kind of against them. Yep. So they have a counterpunch to every punch. But when
I feel like he knows his temperament too. I feel like Shanahan just knows McVay's temperament and he plays on it.
Yeah, I think so. And that's why you see the Niners running still up 17-0 or down 17-0, because I think he knows that McVay is liable to hit the panic button. But again, that's total speculation. So I do think that actually plays into the Rams' favor, though, because the Niners are going to run out of off-speed pitches to throw at LA. I mean, they just played him 3 weeks ago. So those in-game adjustments, I think you're right, are going to be huge. And DeMeco Ryans is, to his credit, like, I didn't think there was any chance they were holding the Packers to 10 points. And that was largely because of Troy Aikman did such a good job of like illustrating it, what the Niners were doing to disguise their coverages. And you'd see Rodgers get to the top of his drop and start to throw it, but the single coverage he thought he had with Devontae Adams is actually double. Now he's got to pull it down, and now he's got his eyes down looking at the pass rush, and it just really affected him. So if they're able to do that to Matthew Stafford, I think they can force him into some mistakes and they have a shot. But can Kyle Shanahan stump Raheem Morris again? That's my kind of bigger question.
Yeah, I think it's a valid question. I mean, he's in the second to the last game this year, he ran the ball on him 44 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Raheem Morris just didn't have an answer for that running game. And that's to me, that's the thing that I pose to Niner Nation is, you know, what do the Rams, no one wants to share it, but what do the Rams have to do to stop that vaunted running game? Because he continues to throw it at you, just downhill running over and over. And then you've got to have the fear of God in you with Kittle, and Ayuk is and then Debo. I mean, it just goes on and on. The Niners have the talent, but that to me, this game comes down to those two coordinators, Raheem Morris and DeMeco Ryans, and who's going to call that better game against the other guy's tendencies? Because both head coaches are involved in the offense.
Right. The other thing that really jumps out to me is I think the part of the reason the Niners are 6-0 in their last 6 is because, and remember, one of those games was with Nick Mullins at quarterback for San Francisco.
I do remember.
And I think part of that has to do with Kyle Shanahan is really good at neutralizing Aaron Donald. And it's definitely not, I don't think it's a talent on the Niners offensive line, because the Niners offensive line isn't like, there's no offensive line that's pound for pound as good as Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
But I think they do a really good job of making him second guess or take a half step the wrong way. And when Aaron Donald is taking a half step the wrong way, okay, now all of a sudden you're a little bit more you're on an even playing field. And he's still going to blow some plays up and he's still going to affect the game, but they do such a good job of keeping him from just taking over like he's able to in a game. So I'm fascinated with what Raheem Morris is going to do, because we saw against Tampa Bay, they were lining up Aaron Donald over the tackle and having him rush from the edge.
Coming from the edge.
And if Trent Williams isn't playing and it's Colton McKivitz, or they have Tom Compton, who is playing right tackle for them right now, and he's very good run blocker, not a great pass blocker. 3rd and long, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 or longer, you've got Von Miller lining up over Colton McKivitz, and you have Aaron Donald lining up over Tom Compton. Like, that's not going to go well for San Francisco. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think the different wrinkles that they throw at the Niners, especially in passing situations, could really wind up being the difference, because that's how you're going to force Garoppolo into some mistakes.
Bingo, man. I'll be really bold in my opinion on this. I think that the entire reason the Rams went out and got Von Miller was the San Francisco 49ers. I think that they're just the other guys, Leonard Floyd, Greg Gaines has been playing lights out, Ashawn Robinson. There's some real talent on our defensive line, but they hadn't found another guy that struck fear in anybody against a team like the 49ers. Because you're right, that's such great analysis, man. They do just enough to get Aaron to take one false step. And it's against every other team, he doesn't take the false steps, and it's the difference in the game oftentimes. So I think that they went out and got Von Miller specifically for the San Francisco 49ers. That's my take. So I expect to see Von really come to play on Sunday. They're going to need him, because you're right. Shanahan's done an amazing job of somewhat neutralizing Aaron Donald. And again, a lot of it is in that running game. A lot of it. That's amazing.
That's it. And if the Rams slow down the running game, like it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Because Jimmy Garoppolo is not winning it.
I would agree. If they've got to put it on Jimmy, even with Kittle, even with Debo, even with Ayuk, that running game really hides a lot of his faults and his flaws. So, yeah, if we can figure out, that's why I think it comes down to Raheem Morris, DeMeco, and maybe that goes without saying, defense wins championships, but still, I think that those two really have a chance to shine in the NFC Championship this weekend. Okay, so, you got a thought. Go.
No, I just if Jimmy Garoppolo is winning the game for the 49ers, it might be time to pack it up in LA.
I'm jumping out the window to my right here, man.
Let's try something new.
You go out and you get Jalen Ramsey, and you bring Eric Weddle out of retirement, and you've got Von Miller and Aaron Donald, and Jimmy Garoppolo's beating you. That window right there, I'm going out
in Week 18. That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't even. And there's nothing I can say to you, man. It's scoreboard. It's just brutal, brutal. So Sunday is going to be a ton of fun. So shifting off a little bit of the X's and the O's, I want to go over to something that I'm sure is just going to make you laugh. This ticket issue, man. SoFi and the Niner fans listening in on Gridiron Icon, sound off. They're restricting tickets because, and I can't think of something more insulting in my life, man, than the Niners winning and then playing the Super Bowl in our stadium after rolling us 3 games in a row. Look, you won't be able to find me. Don't even try to email me or anything. I'll be curled up in a fetal position, sucking my thumb. I mean, this ticket thing. What say you about this? Especially, and what's the word on the ground in the Bay Area? Although it sounds like Ticketmaster has lifted it. Yeah. So, are the Niners gonna travel well Sunday?
Yeah, I have.
Damn it!
I don't want to say so many. I've had several friends hit me up like, "Hey, are you going? We're going. Like, got my tickets. Like, are you gonna roll?" It's like, I'm not going, but I have several friends who are going. A bunch of people I follow on various social media are going down there. And here's the thing, like, the way that was received out here was like, what a clown show. Like,
I mean,
I imagine like that's when Andrew Whitworth's wife is coming out and saying, "I'll buy your tickets," and Kelly Stafford is coming out and saying, "Hey, don't sell your tickets." It's like, all right, that's fine, but that just means players are going home and complaining about the amount of Niner fans that were in the stadium. And like,
did not dig either of those tweets, only to be followed by Debo going, "Wow, man."
Yeah, you're right. So the fact is when it got like the Niners have been in San Francisco since 1946, and they won a bunch of championships in the 80s and 90s. Well, in the 80s, when the NFL's popularity really like spiked. And so there's just Niner fans kind of everywhere. Yeah. And especially in Los Angeles, where you had the Raiders come and go and you had the Rams leave, I think there's a lot of people who just are down there that became 49er fans. Or you have transplants moving from Northern California to Southern California.
Big time.
And so I think that, there's just a big Niner fan base in SoCal. But then it's an easy travel. And there's not, people aren't going to go to Dallas or to Green Bay. So it's like, yeah, we'll shell out for the NFC Championship and go to Southern California where it's beautiful weather and
hit up Disneyland.
You have an excuse to go to LA or Anaheim for a couple days. So yeah, man. I honestly think that only emboldened people to go.
I do too.
Like people were like, "Oh, screw that, I'm going." They say I can't. Well, I'm in there. So I think it's going to be a lot like Week 18 again.
I gotta tell you, it might be worse. I bleed blue and yellow, and so everybody knows I'm a unabashed Rams fan my entire life since I was 10. And when I saw that, I cringed.
Yeah,
like
I would have too.
The rent-free meme. The rent-free meme just lives with this. Don't comment. Go out there and beat them. Right. People want to pay for tickets to come to a game. I don't. LA is a transient city, like you said. There's people from all over the country, all over the world that live there, and the Niners were a dynasty. just a couple of decades ago, and they still have an incredibly loyal fan base. I still think they own the GOAT of quarterbacks, because that's my generation. And yeah, when I saw that stuff, man, and then Debo just with like a one-liner, and I just was like, oh man. So okay, Niners are I agree with you. Niners are going to travel well again. There's going to be some red.
It's like there's these Niners, groups on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and they're all, putting groups together to go down there and talking about red out, and it's like, man, that's tough. I mean, ultimately, if the Rams win, like, none of it matters. But when in the lead up to the game, it's like you can't feel great about that if you're the Rams, knowing you've lost to this team 6 times in a row, and knowing that you're at home and it's probably going to sound like a road game. Those are two things that going in, again, scoreboard matters more than anything, but going in, that certainly doesn't help.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. And I forgot, I also tweeting, Kyle Yushef was tweeting too. See you down there, Red. I mean, it's a thing. So, and like I said, I don't think there's anything more insulting than the Niners coming into our place, traveling well, beating the brakes off us again to go to the Super Bowl, and then playing the Super Bowl in our place again. If the Rams need any kind of motivation, this is it. Yeah. I mean, I cannot wait for this game. I cannot wait. But so, okay, segueing out of that real quick from where you are, what are you hearing on the injury front for the Niners? Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, Jeff Wilson, where are we? Are they going to play this Sunday? Trent Williams.
So start with the inconsequential one. Jeff Wilson may or may not play. It's not a high ankle sprain. He hasn't played running back since Elijah Mitchell came back. He got hurt covering a kick. So he may or may not play. If he's inactive, Trey Sermon will be up. That's the big thing there.
You forgotten man, Trey Sermon.
I know.
Wow.
It's wild. Deebo Samuel just took a helmet to the knee on that last carry on the 3rd and 7 where he got the first down against the Packers. Shanahan says he'll be fine. He practiced today. And Trent Williams is the big one though, because he's maybe pound for pound the best player in football. I think it's him and Aaron Donald are 1-2 in whatever order you want to put him in. Shanahan said that they can't tell if it's a high ankle sprain or a low ankle sprain because when they did the MRI, there's other quote unquote stuff in there. And in talking to a doctor from UCSF, they basically said that sometimes an MRI can show, damage from past injuries and you can't tell what's new and what's old. So they're just kind of waiting and seeing. He didn't practice on Wednesday, Trent Williams, but Shanahan said, if Trent thinks he's going to play, then so do I, or something along those lines. So we'll see. I didn't think he was going to miss week 18 with that elbow sprain, and he wound up sitting out. And that was a huge game. So we'll see. If he's not playing, I like the Niners' chances a lot less. I know that offensive linemen don't typically get that kind of shine, but the drop-off between him and Colton McKivitz, who would probably start in his place, is so significant that it would be like worth points.
Yeah.
So the other one is Ambry Thomas, who had a really good game against the Rams. He had the game-sealing interception in Week 18. He actually hurt his knee against the Cowboys and didn't play against Green Bay. And when he doesn't play, it means Dante Johnson, who's just this kind of middle-of-the-road veteran, is playing, or Josh Norman could play, and that's bad news for the 49ers. Ambry Thomas is at least by now, he's a rookie, and he's really come on strong at the end of the year. Looked like a starting caliber player by the end of the year. And Dante Johnson and Josh Norman are not that. So I think Ambry Thomas is limited on Wednesday. I imagine he'll play, but that's another thing to watch, because with Van Jefferson and Odell Beckham Jr. and Cooper Kupp, the Niners need all the help they can get.
Yeah. We're always watching the secondary was really banged up in Week 18. You and I talked about it on this show, and Niners still pulled it out. I got to tell you, Trent Williams, one of the top 5-7 players in the league, in my opinion. And I tell you what, I just want to tip my hat to the guy, because he is the best trash talker of 2021 and 2022 when he walked off the field pointing at the Cowboys fans.
Oh my God.
That might be one of the finest moments of the season.
Unbelievable photo.
It was so good. So good, man. I loved it.
he was mic'd up in Green Bay, and the first, like, it's like a 7-minute clip that the Niners post, and the first like 4 minutes of him is just him walking around telling all his teammates how awesome they are. And it's like, man, what a guy. What a guy. And then they put him in motion as a fullback. And it's like, how many left tackles in the league are doing that? And he's wiping out defender. He's
as big as a mountain
player.
too, man.
He is
I mean, no wonder they can't tell what ankle sprain he has. Me neither. He's just big as a damn mountain. I don't think, does he have an ankle?
Yeah.
It's just a monster. Well, okay, so the Rams on the same front as of late today. Taylor Rapp is still out in concussion protocol, but I got a sneaking suspicion that doesn't have to do with a concussion. I think they like Weddle, Nick Scott. I think there might be some politics going on there in Ram Park. Terrell Burgess from Utah. I think they like their safety set. Rapp's a good run defender, struggles in coverage a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he's kind of he's iffy. And then of course our big one, same thing, left tackle Andrew Whitworth is he looks like he's planning to play. And then his backup Joe Noteboom, who played fantastic against the Bucs, has a pec strain. So that's it on the injury front. Knock on wood. I want both these teams to be absolutely healthy and go at it. Mano a mano, and just show us who the best team is. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, me neither.
So, okay, in closing, man, give me your prediction. The NFC Championship 2022, Los Angeles Rams versus the San Francisco 49ers.
I think the Rams are finally going to figure it out. And I think that because Jimmy Garoppolo is just not playing well. And they got by against Dallas and they got by against Green Bay, but I don't know how you have a quarterback in 2022 averaging 151.5 passing yards a game without throwing a touchdown, and he's averaging an interception a game. I don't feel good about picking a team with a quarterback that's doing that. I mean, Niners are really good, and their defense has been playing really well, and that's the only reason I think they have any kind of chance. I think the Rams are going to win.
I like the way this is going.
As far as the score goes, I think the Rams win like 24-17 or 24-20 or something like that.
You just nailed
at some point
my
the Niners
score.
are gonna have to. At some point the Niners are gonna have to throw the ball, and I just don't trust their quarterback. I mean, they're playing really well and stuff, but the Rams offense is rolling, and if the Niners are going to give the ball away a couple times, I mean, it just, I don't know. So yeah, that's what I've got. I think the Rams are going to win and go to the Super Bowl.
Okay, man, that's guys speaking from logic and not the heart. I'm blown away because I too had the score at 24-17.
No,
I too think the Rams will win. And I think maybe I got a little more heart than logic, unlike you, but I think McVay has to. I think this is an absolute, we're not going to get rolled. We just built a superstar team. You're playing in the second biggest market in the world. There is absolutely no excuse for what you have allowed to happen. And I think that Raheem Morris is going to come with some pretty exotic blitz packages to take advantage of Jimmy that he maybe hasn't seen before. Just something a little different, a few wrinkles.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. It feels to me like all the pressure's on the Rams. And we'll see. I mean, if the Niners come out, if the Niners start fast, I think they might roll. But I think the Rams are just about like if you drop down two aliens who have not watched either of these teams and they just watch them play once, I think they'd come away thinking the Rams are the better team. So that's the logical way to pick. So
agree. I think we're going to see a lot of OBJ. I think Cam Akers is a difference maker, and I think they'll just do something to mess with Jimmy just a little bit to make this. But I think it'll be closer than people realize. I say 24-17, maybe 27-17, but it's going to be in that range. I think it's going to be a hell of a game, man.
If I'm the Rams, I'm spreading it out. Like screw the running game. I know they're going to try and get it going, but just put Van Jefferson out there, put Cooper Kupp and OBJ and Bitkowski or whoever their other Cooper Kupp, Walmart brand Cooper Kupp is. And
Skowronek, Ben Skowronek,
out
of Notre Dame.
Yeah. Put those four guys on the field and make the Niners play all their corners. and just let
Absolutely.
Matthew Stafford go to. I mean, that's what I would do. But
Yeah, I think you're smart as hell. I would too, and I'd run a lot of no huddle offense. I'd try to gas
yeah,
anything. Warner. I'd try to gas Warner, and I'd try to gas Bosa,
yeah, don't
and
let
I
him
would use
sub. That's, I mean,
short
I'm
passing
I'm
game.
right there, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, man. Well, I don't want to say it's great to see you, but it is good to see you. I just
Yeah,
didn't think we'd see each other again after the final week of the season,
yeah, me
folks.
neither.
It's just crazy, isn't it? If you're not following Kyle, go follow Kyle. He's on Twitter at Kyle A. Madson or at the Niners Wire. He's also the host of the Candlestick Chronicles on Blue Wire Podcast. You can find him everywhere, Apple, Spotify, you name it. Join him. Read his stuff at ninerswire.usatoday.com. If you're a Niner fan and you're not following Kyle, what are you doing? Anything else we can find you, or anything else you want to tell us?
No, I think that's it. I think you pretty much covered it.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, I'm going to commit to not texting, emailing, calling, or anything you one way or the other after this game. Have mercy on me if it doesn't go my way.
I'm not a
And
trash talker, so you're good.
I've seen you on Twitter. You've had some zingers lately.
No, it's just I might just like I'm gonna do that
Yeah,
kind of thing, but
just enough to make you.
I'm not gonna go track somebody down.
I love it, man. Well, thanks, my friend. Folks, Kyle Madson, thanks for joining us on Gridiron Icon. You can find us at gridironicon.com and on all the major podcasts as well as YouTube. Enjoy the game. Enjoy this NFC championship. I think this is going to be one for the ages. I will see you soon. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks.